without having to be a subscriber. So we hope you enjoy it. Let's have a look and see what's going on.
Warren Thornton on Patreon. The most banned news show on the planet. Do you want the truth? Ex-special forces in conflict zones around the world. The journalist with unprecedented contacts. The organizations, the wars, the scandals, and a complicit media. The people placed in power. The organizations who shape our world. And what they have in store for you.
Tell me.
The real truth. They will not tell you on mainstream media. Want the truth? Welcome home.
On tonight's show, live and interactive 7 p.m. BST. Lembit Opik, former MP and unprecedented host. Western overthrow disaster in Mali. Mayon volcano in the Philippines, eruptions intensify. The Club of Rome, what is their agenda? A British war crime hidden for 80 years. 5,000 US troops to leave Germany. Spirit Airlines ceases trading, a taste of things to come. Is the game up for Kushner and Witkoff? The nonsense of the Nord Stream pipeline explosion debunked forever. As we told you, America received Iran's demands, Trump lied. Proven right again, Iran's corridor busts blockade. Finally, media takes notice of our Odessa findings. And our prediction for the Donbass is nearing its tipping point. Warren Thornton on Patreon. Accurate, factual news and future assessments that stand the test of time.
I am on my way. We will be there shortly.
Yes, let's hurry.
If you want the truth in this world, Warren Thornton on Patreon. Let me state clearly, I did not watch Warren Thornton on Patreon.
Are you watching Warren Thornton on Patreon?
If you had watched Warren Thornton on Patreon, you would have seen this coming, sir. What in blazes?
Let me get this straight. You're going to jump a barbed wire fence to watch Warren Thornton on Patreon?
Warren Thornton on Patreon starts at 6 p.m. tonight.
I have a dream. Watch Warren Thornton on Patreon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show.
On tonight's show.
There we go. Thank you very much for watching. Absolutely brilliant to have you with us. We will have the company of Lembit Opik with us very, very shortly. I'm sure he's only a few minutes away. As usual, Lembit normally is popping in the odd minute or so after the start. So very simply, let's get into the start of this. And of course, we're going to start with something very close to my place. And it is, and welcome to Harry J as well. If you are new to the show, Harry, just click on the raise hand and that will, of course, allow you to have an opinion or to ask any questions or to even indeed to give your opinion on anything. Let's have a little look at this.
Too scary. Papunta yan na ginubat.
Ashpool.
Ito dun yung mundo.
Wow. Sumabog yung bulkan. Grabe. Oh.
Jadi mana ya upin yang kasus kabar sana ya. Bawas na.
Now, there we go. That is the Mayon volcano in the Philippines. Now, that's about 400 miles away from us. I'm just going to say welcome to Lembit Opik. Good evening, Lembit. How are you?
Hello.
You're looking very sartorial.
Yeah, I just in a meeting basically about space flight, and I thought I'd dress up for it. So I
Fantastic.
thought I'd give you the benefit of my sartorial elegance today.
And we're all the better for it. Now, the very first story, Lembit, of course, is the Mayon volcano has erupted quite, shall we say, it's certainly ramping up. And of course, we are, I said 400 miles, I got that wrong. We're about 400 kilometers, which is about 300 miles. But when Pinatubo went up, the ash from Pinatubo fell all over the island. So yes, we've got a few problems here, and these quakes are intensifying. Now, Mayon is a very active volcano, but the whole of the Ring of Fire is getting very, very active, Lembit, and we've seen a sharp uptick in not only the amount of volcanoes that are erupting, but also the intensity. I think there might be a big one around the corner, and we'll get to Sean Murphy after Lembit.
Yeah, volcanoes are interesting. We don't really fully understand plate tectonics. That's how the Earth's parts, the jigsaw puzzle which makes the Earth's surface moves around. But the Ring of Fire that Warren's referring to is essentially a fault line which goes around the Pacific, really, where the plates are provoking each other. They scrape against each other. Some places they're pulling apart, other places they're converging, going over. But the effect's the same. You get volcanoes, and that's because underneath your feet, if you go far enough down, there's always lava. And so that lava spurts out. What's interesting as well is so we don't know quite what causes it. We have a pretty good idea, but we don't know the extent to which that's connected to dramatic climate events. One interesting thing is that cosmic rays, believe it or not, could also cause earthquakes and volcanoes, because cosmic rays are very energetic, and there are times when there's more cosmic ray activity for reasons I won't go into, and there could be a space connection to this as well. We don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you a little story in a minute. We'll get to Sean Murphy and then Lee Williams. Sean Murphy?
Sorry, I'm trying to switch my mic on. Yeah, I was looking at the map. It's not far from Lake the Gaspé City, is it?
No, no, not far at all. Not far at all.
And it is actually the whole of that. It's not actually an island. It is connected to the main your islands.
Yeah, yeah, we're sort of one of the big islands. We're on an island right in the middle of that land. So if you
Yeah, I
look
know
at
where you are.
yeah, if you look at Manila, we're surrounded completely by a lake on all sides. It's a 2 hour boat ride to get to anywhere near the mainland. As
Yeah,
I say,
I
and
know where,
we
I know exactly where you are. But yeah, it's a fair old distance. You just got to hope the it's a northwesterly wind, really, haven't you?
yeah, and at the moment it's southwesterly. The so let's get into Lee Williams very quickly,
Only a
and
quick one.
then
What's the name of the area that's actually been affected?
Luzon,
Luzon. Okay, thank you.
Luzon.
That is very exactly the same as Manila. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into this a little bit because obviously, when Lembit was saying we do know some things about how volcanoes go up.
Yeah.
There was one in Mexico called Popocatépetl. I've pronounced that right. I'm quite amazed. So there was one in Mexico, and many years ago, a guy came up with a saying that when it comes to predictions of volcanoes, that harmonic tremors were the key to when a big explosion was coming along. And of course, nobody believed him. 13 scientists went up to this Popocatépetl in Mexico, and of course, it exploded and they all died. And after that, everybody went, okay, harmonic tremors. So we are learning as we go. And of course, this guy who everybody, the whole scientific world turned around and said utter nonsense, turned out to be absolutely correct. So, Lembit, we are learning as we go, but it's still very much an inexact science.
Yes, it's inexact because we haven't got enough direct measurement of it, really. We haven't been around long enough with all our clever instruments to look at it. It's a fascinating subject. Volcanology is fascinating. Mount St. Helens, which went up decades ago, it's a good example of it, where a lot of the mountainside was destroyed. A lot of people died actually at the time as well, because it was fast-flowing lava. All different kinds of lava. But it does seem to be cyclical. There are some arguments to say that, as well as the great big asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs, volcanic activity was high at the time as well. But roughly speaking, it's hard to know exactly, but and also there's a certain amount of politics in it. But volcanoes erupt hundreds of millions of emit hundreds of millions of tons of carbon dioxide every year, maybe 0.3 billion, something like that. So they're not the biggest emitters, but they kick it very high up, and they kick water vapor high up into the atmosphere if they explode underwater. And there's plenty of evidence to suggest that volcanoes, and even individual ones like Konga Tonga, would actually affect the climate briefly. It's a fascinating area. And the whole thing about plate tectonics is interesting. Millions and millions of years ago, we didn't have the way the world is now. There was just one great big continent called Pangea, Pangea, and that had an impact on climate too. Fascinating thing, really is, and not one I'm that expert on, I have to say.
What we'll do, because obviously, as you know, part and parcel of when I was a youngster, I spent a lot of time on board a boat with people who not only were volcanologists, but were studying tsunamis wherever they'd hit. And of course, many of those tsunamis came through either volcanic eruptions or, of course, underwater landslides and many other things. So we will do a show, and if Lembit's interested in that, we'll do a Sunday night show where we actually do earthquakes and tsunamis, and we'll go through various things, eruptions and everything else, because most people are fascinated by the subject. So we will have a show on it at some stage. Mark has joined us as well. And of course, we've got new people joining all the time, which is fantastic. If ever you want to talk, just click on the raise hand and we will sort that out for you so that you can ask a question or give your opinion. So let's get into a couple of things then. Let's have a look at this, Lembit. Now this is outside, is just leaving on the border with Mali. This is trucks just leaving, and this is being literally tracked all the way before being hit. Now this is Jainim, which are a branch of Al Qaeda, who have been part of the West and shall we say the Western backed forces, the rebel forces that have been trying to take over Mali, and of course the Russians are in there helping the Malians. This is we have broke this down for you. The Western-backed forces are France, USA, and of course the people who fund Al Qaeda. So of course, as we can say quite clearly, that France, the USA, and Israel are wrapped up in this. And the whole idea, of course, is to get a bit of control over the African continent, and Mali are fighting back with the aid of the Russians. And we're seeing these sort of struggles play out all around the globe, and somebody else who's been helping them, would you believe it or not, is the Ukrainians, because they've been finding lots of weapons that have gone to Ukraine have turned up in Mali. How strange that that should happen, Lembit.
Not strange at all, is it? Because we jolly well know that Ukraine is currently the powerhouse of dropping the bottom out of the illegal arms trade market. Somebody who knows somebody who's in it told me that the arms dealers were exasperated because of the price drop, the price crash, due to all the weapons being sold out from Ukraine, and obviously felt hard done by because of all of this shenanigans. No, you don't surprise me at all.
It is quite staggering how that's coming on. And of course, we are in the middle of this, you would call a global scrap between superpowers who are going to be trying and taking over various places. And it's looking very much as though America are going to be dipping off to Cuba once they can extricate themselves from Iran, Lembit. Our people who keep an eye on the sky for us show that there are many planes taking off in various areas and flying all around the area that, of course, would be for Cuba. There are various American planes leaving bases in Uruguay, making flights over Cuba. And of course, Trump has alluded to this, that they might stop by Cuba on the way. Your thoughts on this, Lembit?
It's all part of the same big mess. It's hard to understand what American foreign policy actually is right now. Are they trying to rerun the Bay of Pigs? Is this a best of three with North Korea? Are they trying to deny the or erase the Islamic Revolution in the popular uprising in I think 1979 in Iran? It's difficult to know, and it looks to me like the political situation has become tactical for America. They're making decisions on a case-by-case basis rather than having a bigger plan, and that's dangerous. Also, this situation with Iran, everybody can see that Iran has essentially survived. They've killed people, but they haven't killed their regime. They haven't killed the Islamic Revolutionary Guard folks. You can abolish them, so you can ban them if you want to. That doesn't abolish them. You can say that they're a terrorist group. Doesn't really hurt them very much. So this is the problem. I think there's a danger that power used to come from just having a superior fighting force. It's obvious in Ukraine that Ukraine is losing to the superior might and professionalism of Russia. But ironically, all the might in the world hasn't really helped America get to its end point in Iran. Yeah. In the same way that in North Vietnam, they survived with sticks and stones and tunnels, and the sheer bloody mindedness and resolve of the North Vietnamese, Viet Cong.
It is quite staggering when you see with all the things that are coming up. Now, this is not to be confused when we're talking about the superpowers, of course, with the other global players that are in this, namely some of the secret societies. One of them being the Club of Rome. Now, you would have heard, of course, Lee Slaughter talk about this a heck of a lot. It was one of his very big bugbears. And the 1974 prototype of the Club of Rome had divided the world into 10 regional kingdoms, which of course replace all national boundaries when the New World Order is implemented. Now, this is the Club of Rome. This is, once again, it's one of these think tank groups where all these very shady, very powerful people get together. And on this map, they say Mexico is part 6, but it's being merged with North America under a NAFTA, which is the North American Free Trade Agreement. Now, we're not going to get too much into the Club of Rome here, but if you do want to know about the Club of Rome, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick their teachings in the chat for you. So there's a Google Drive file there. If you want to know all about the Club of Rome, what it does and the shadowy elements to it and what its plans are, re the New World Order and re the World Economic Forum, click on that link, go and have a read for yourself. It is a published manifesto that they actually have for the way the world should be run. So just in case, for those who haven't seen it, if you have, then obviously you're no stranger to it. But just in case you haven't seen it, there it is in all its glory. Go and have a look. So let's get into this now then, Lembit. Everything that we said, Trump has been absolutely caught lying. Trump turned around and said that Iran had given, literally had sent the United States a 10-point proposal and they threw it in the bin. That was an out-and-out lie, as we said. They were going to talk to the Russians first. Of course, they refused to meet Witkoff and Kushner, and more on them later. They refused to meet them because, of course, there was no point, because the United States proposals, now they sent them to Iran, not the other way around, they just dismissed them out of hand. And Iran itself has sent a 14-point proposal, which they sent on Thursday night, which we said they would after talking to the Russians. So Trump was lying through his teeth. We were correct yet again. We said that was exactly what was going to happen. And our massive thanks to our friend who is very close to the Russian people, shall we say. And we're very, very happy that they let us know what was going on. And of course, we published that at the time. Now, the problem that we have here, and it is quite strange here, Lembit, is of course that the 10-point proposal, and we have that for you as well, quite a bit of that for you. The US was saying, oh, we rejected the proposal. It hadn't even been sent. The 10-point proposal was handed to Pakistani mediators, as we said it would, and they have turned around and said no such thing was handed to us beforehand. So there has not been a prior proposal from them. Now, very simply, through the Pakistani mediator, we found this out from our friends. They've submitted a response, and the demands are guarantees of no military aggression by the US or Israel, the withdrawal of US military assets from the Middle East, lifting of the naval blockade, unfreezing Iran's blocked assets, payment of war reparations, lifting of economic sanctions, permanently ending on the war on all fronts, including Lebanon, and the withdrawal from Lebanon. Lembit will be happy to hear that. And a new mechanism for management of the Strait of Hormuz, which will basically not see the USA gain from that at all. Now, the USA are going to turn that down. But very, very simply on there, Lembit, and this was stated quite clearly, and the Russians advised the Iranians on this, there will be no talk of any nuclear, shall we say, to do with missiles or enriching uranium or anything at all until the peace is settled, first of all. And once that is all done, and once that's in place, and once nothing is happening, then we'll talk nuclear enrichment and the possible handing it over to anybody that we shouldn't have. And of course, Trump was the one who literally tore up the JPCOA, the agreement they formerly had under Obama, which the Iranians were sticking to. This is not good for America, Lembit.
Well, it doesn't take anyone further. It's a stalemate. And the reason it's a stalemate is simply because it seems to me we've got an Iran that wins by virtue of not being defeated, and an America that loses by virtue of not being victorious. And so it's an uncomfortable situation because Iran doesn't really have anyone to fight. If it invaded Israel, it doesn't really help much, and there isn't anywhere else really to invade right now. So all they have to do is sit tight, and it's been very damaging to Iran. There's no two ways about it. But it's hard to know how to get out of this now because America will want to save face. Trump says that they've killed the leader, so there's no one to negotiate with, which partly may be true. They may have replaced a moderate with a hardliner by killing the new Ayatollah's father.
Yes.
The whole thing is just really scrappy now, and it's hard to understand what the exit strategy is. There's a bit, for people who may not know the history of the Vietnam War, should be aware that America started by sending advisors in, then it sent troops in, then it became a full-blown war, and then America just gave up whenever it became impossibly unpopular at home. And all the while, North Vietnam, the Viet Cong, did what Iran's doing. They survived, and they won hearts and minds. I would imagine anybody who's lost a loved one in this war won't be very happy with Israel or America now.
No, exactly that. And of course, there's been the usual responses from Trump. And of course, the White House did a very strange thing. They did a 1 hour loop, Lembit, of this. Now that went on for an hour, and that was put out by the White House. It's not only smacks of desperation, but it's not going to beat the Lego chats, is it?
It's tricky. Not quite sure. Sometimes you wonder if there's a kind of joker there who does this without permission. Not quite sure. I don't think it's going to be a game changer, that particular video, but it's not exactly something you'd expect Roosevelt or John F. Kennedy to have put out.
Exactly that. And just to give you an idea, you can either watch that for an hour or you can watch the latest Lego hit, which is about 34 seconds long. Let's have a look.
You talk of freedom and justice, spreading the light, but all you spread is the terror in the dead of the night. Your politicians are puppets, strings pulled by the greed, selling weapons to anyone, ignoring the need. They sit in ivory towers completely out of touch, making billions on bombs while the world suffers so much. They point fingers at us, call us the axis of bad, while they fund the worst violence that the world ever had. Same sun rising, but we're living in hell, while the leaders are ringing the funeral bell.
And of course, people keep going from strength to strength. They're winning the propaganda war by a country mile, Lembit.
People don't like it when civilians get killed, whoever they are, whatever color they are, whatever creed they are. One of the problems for America is it just looks bad that 165 kids were killed in a school, and those sorts of individual events don't define the entire war, but they are public relations disasters, really. But the biggest problem here is back to what I said before. I don't say this with any venom, and I'm not trying to antagonize viewers, even those who are sympathetic to the military activity in Iran. But it's just not clear what the exit strategy is. If you'd say to Donald Trump, okay, what does success look like? He'd give you an answer, but the answer wouldn't be specific enough to be measurable. Or it would have platitudes in it which aren't necessarily accurate.
Well,
and that's difficult.
let's have a look then, because of course Trump is going to be announcing. Apparently, he's going to be having a chat, and Trump is making Eastern Standard Time 4 p.m. I think. I'll soon be reviewing the plan that Iran sent to us. Can't imagine it would be acceptable. But they've not yet paid a big enough price for what they've done to humanity. I mean, that's just complete nonsense. And of course, the Iranians have also sort of come out with various things. But we've also, as I say, that's Trump again. He's put it across all platforms just to try and emphasize his point, which is becoming a bit of a rambling at the moment. And Iran has said the USS is the only pirates in the world that possess aircraft carriers. Our ability to confront pirates is no less than our ability to sink warships. Prepare to face a graveyard of your carriers and forces, just as the wreckage of your aircraft that were left behind in Isfahan. That was the failed attempt, by the way, to try and get hold of shall we say, the enriched uranium. It keeps saying all sorts of weird things. It's not having any impression at all on the Iranians, Lembit.
Well, what more can they do except kill people? In which case those positions will be backfilled. It's not like Iran was caught by surprise.
Yeah.
They have had 4 decades to prepare for this, and stoically they have. I'm not taking a side in my commentary here. I'm saying that you have to be pretty uninformed about Iran to be surprised that Iran is being resilient, and Iran is being resilient. It's also wrong to believe that all 90 million people in Iran are against the regime. If they were, then the regime, or the current administration, to be precise, I'm using American language there, but the current administration wouldn't be there anymore. But the only solution here is some kind of a negotiated one, and it's difficult. Everybody knows it's difficult. There's no two ways about it. But it just keeps going and dragging on because of the lack of an exit strategy. It really is. That is really the problem.
Yeah, and, quite worrying, isn't it?
I mean, what would you if you woke up tomorrow morning in the president's bed alone, and they said, "Mr. President Thornton, what are we going to do?" What would you do?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't have gone and done that with Iran anyway.
Too late. You wake up in this position tomorrow.
If you want to get out of this, you start trying to make friends. So first of all, an absolutely terrible strategy is to push Russia and China closer together. If you really think that China and Russia are a problem, you have to get hold of Israel. If you can't do that, then you've got a real problem, because Israel have totally and utterly penetrated the American psyche, if you like, or the war. He's completely surrounded by warmongers. I think what you do is, the very first thing you do is you sack your entire cabinet and go, look, that was the advice they were giving me. If you are that sort of person, that was the advice they were giving me. And you get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in, you get J.D. Vance, maybe keep. But Rubio's got to go. Susie Wiles got to go. She used to work for Netanyahu. Anybody that is Israel or military industrial complex, you need to get rid of. And very simply, you also need to open the Epstein files. That's what I'd do if I woke up as Trump in the morning.
Let's hope you do.
Very much along those lines.
Send us a coded message.
Yes,
Afghanistan banana stand. That comes from a film. If you say that, if Trump says that tomorrow, it means that it's you.
Yeah, I have to say, Lembit, the first thing I'd be doing is getting you in as an ambassador. Let's have a
That's very kind. Will I pass the vetting? That's it.
I don't give a stuff about the vetting. If it's good enough for Starmer, it's good enough for me. Let's have a look at this.
مسيرة دي يا شباب مسيرة اضرب 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 اضرب.
Now that was the Fifth Fleet, obviously at the start of the war in Bahrain, when they didn't expect, and it really did come as a shock to them then, but they didn't expect Iran to strike back. And obviously that was the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, and you can hear lots of Bahrainians who were cheering Iran on. This has come as, I can't stress this enough. I was talking to a friend of ours who is quite close to the White House, and they are genuinely shocked that Iran have been able to respond in the way that they have.
Well, because there's a lack of understanding about the character of Iranians. And back to what I said before, is lack of understanding about the resolve of the North Vietnamese and eventually the South Vietnamese. When you do war without a good exit strategy, then you end up in trouble. They did the same in Afghanistan. They funded the Mujahideen and their, at that time, old friend, Osama bin Laden, and they achieved their goal of making the Afghanistan occupation by the Soviet Union unaffordable in life and cost. So the Soviet Union withdrew, and then there was nothing behind it. There's a film called Charlie Wilson's War, which goes into this quite well, actually.
Yeah.
And essentially, they just abandoned the expectant Afghans, and that led directly to the problems that were had later on.
Yeah, which strangely happened when we left all the weapons behind it, or when the Americans left all the weapons behind in Afghanistan, which then got routed through Pakistan and ended up in Iran. How strange. History
It's all very odd, isn't
it?
Yes.
Sean Murphy.
Well, Warren, it's once again, it's the Americans who think they are stronger and far stronger and far superior to everybody else, and they can't be bothered to do their research. Let's put it this way: they put their they put their brain in gear before, or they thump down on the accelerator before having their brain in gear.
Yeah.
They don't do the research because they are so conceited that they think they're superior to everybody. Everybody will do as they say if they threaten them enough. And sadly, it doesn't work that way. And they've found out.
Yes, come as a bit of a shock. Good points, well made.
Has it ever?
Let's yeah, exactly that, and we'll get into some of the financial and economic implications of that in a minute. Eric Jones.
I think they do it on purpose to cause future chaos. Yes, me.
Fair dues. That's fair enough. We do know that they do like destabilization in various countries that they don't control. So that's a fair shout. Let's get into it a little bit then. Well, let's do the shipping first of all.
And there was no response. Turn your ship around. Evacuate your engine room immediately. And you see all these guys running out of there. Now, they're 5 miles away, and one shot into the engine room, blew up the engine room. The ship stopped. They used tugboats, and then we landed on top of it. On top of everything else, we then land on top of it, and we took over the ship. We took over the cargo, took over the oil. It's a very profitable business. Who would have thought we were doing that? We're like pirates. We're sort of like pirates. But we're not playing games because, you know, for 47 years, Iran has been pushing everybody around. They're the bully.
Why are people clapping international piracy, Lembe?
It's awkward because in that earlier clip you showed, the Lego one, Iran, whoever made it, was also saying that the Americans are like pirates. It's difficult because there's a question of legitimacy, and international opinion is quite important up to a point at least. It's not without cost to be treated in this way. This is the difficulty, and you can actually end up with a problem here, which is you end up looking like the bad guy. Whatever your initial intentions, you end up looking like the bad guy, and that's the issue. It's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable thing because America does need to have allies, and if you put the allies off, then it just begins to get icky, because people don't want to be seen associating with you in the end.
Well, here's where we have a bit of a problem, and we're going to be talking about this because once again, we have been proved right. Now, there's going to be no straits for people who have taken part in the war. So the Straits of Hormuz in the new proposals, and we have this from our friend who's, shall we say, very close to this, seeing what this proposal is, and he's actually seen it with his own eyes. There is going to be no movement for people allowed through the Straits of Hormuz who have been party and parcel to helping Israel in this war. And on the other topic as well, because they're saying, oh, we're just like pirates, no problem whatsoever. Just to give you a quick update, not that one, obviously. We've got a major problem, of course, and that Kuwait, and we'll get into this a bit more in a minute, but Kuwait have literally zero tankers have left Kuwait in the last month to carry any oil. So that gives you a big heads up to start with. And the nonsense about them stopping every tanker is complete nonsense. Now, remember, we talked about this the other day and we got into this. Now, the studies have shown over the last 48 hours that 31 ships have gone through the Straits of Hormuz, and the Americans have managed to turn back 5, and 2 they have boarded. So that's a total of 7. And of course, we know that they've only managed to stop, shall we say, 20% of the tankers in the first place. And of course, everything that we told you, if you remember, about the overland that was happening through Gwadar, that this is the port in Karachi, and we showed you the overland routes that they're now using, Pakistan, and of course, Pakistan and various other countries, including Iran, are using to ship everything around. So, of course, the blockade is having absolutely very little effect whatsoever in this war. It is quite incredible that they are pushing this nonsense because it is not going to keep going. And of course, America's stance on this changes every 5 minutes. And of course, we get all sorts. There is, of course, this nonsense as well from the Straits of Hormuz. Let's lighten the mood a little. According to Fox News and Jesse Waters and many others, they are strapping bombs to dolphins, Lembit, and sinking ships.
Are they really?
Yes.
I feel bad for the dolphins, I have to say.
Danny the dolphin, Oliver the orca, they're all at it.
I just feel sorry for the animals who are just doing something trusting with humans. It's not their war. I don't know. It's difficult to know what to believe anymore.
It is, of course, complete nonsense.
I don't really know what's true and what isn't, if I'm honest about it. And bringing wildlife into human conflict never makes me happy.
Yeah, I was joking, Lembit. They've actually put that out as a story. It's just
I know. But I'm thinking about. Let me say though, there is quite clearly. No, I understand that. I'm not sure how you train dolphins to find ships and blow them up. I mean, if you think about it for a minute, it wouldn't be the smartest. It wouldn't be the smartest way of doing it anyway. Because the dolphin might just decide to catch a sardine or something instead of going to the boat.
Exactly that.
Whereas Solder launched RPGs from jet skis would probably be a little bit more effective.
Kevin says he weeps for Flipper. I've got to say, when they go Free Will, where's Willie or Free Willie? Well, he's over there, and a bit of him's over there, and a bit of him's over there. It is, of course, complete nonsense, and this is America clutching at straws once again. And the reason they're sort of clutching at straws here is they don't have a way out. Now, what the Straits of Hormuz do have is a ton of fast boats. And very simply, we've had another vessel boarded by the Iranians where they were trying to, UK literally were trying to move a ship through. So UK MTO are, of course, issuing this warning. Now, Sirik in Iran, basically what was happening, they're trying to move this vessel closer. And what we've had now is literally the British tankers are getting the tankers that are sitting there to use the binoculars to spy on the fast boats of Iran. So what has happened now is Iran have not only stopped that boat that tried to sneak through, the tanker that tried to sneak through, but it's also turned around and said to the two British tankers that are there and have got eyes on the straits and showing fast boat movement and everything else, have told them they've now got to go to Saudi Arabian ports and not even to be in the Straits of Hormuz. So every time the British do something stupid like this, and it is quite often the British tankers, we've had 5 hold already, and Lloyd's of London has told us that, of course, the stoppage percentage of the Americans is only running at 21% of tankers that are coming through, because they're either now sending it overland or they're sailing so close to the coast of Pakistan it'll be an international incident. And, of course, the British ships now are being moved out of the strait without being able to unload, and they're being moved over to Saudi Arabia, Lembit, because they've literally got the binoculars on, and they've been using radio frequencies to give away the positions of Iran's fast boats. So they've just made them move the tankers. They've given them 48 hours to do so, or they're going to sink them.
Yes, well, it's not surprising. It is a war situation, the one started by the West. This is the thing. If people want to be unhappy about it, they should be unhappy about the fact that this war began, quite likely, in my view, a war caused by the Prime Minister of Israel dragging Donald Trump into it. I can't see any benefit to Donald Trump being in this billion-a-day conflict, which, of course, is costing, I don't know how much more are people paying for fuel in America,
here we go.
dollar. Say again?
Let's show you. $4.39 a gallon on average.
Okay, and how much was it before? About $2.80?
Yes, yes.
So they're paying
Brent
$1.5.
$120 a barrel, which is almost double.
Yeah, okay. So I'm just thinking, I don't know how much, if on average an American buys 10 gallons a week. I don't know if that's realistic. 10 gallons a week, that's $1.5, so $15. How many cars are there? There must be 100 million cars. You know, it's like a billion a week to the road users. I don't know. I've just made those figures up, but there's a cost to everybody in this, and now we've got a problem because they're even talking about cutting international flights because could be a jet fuel shortage. Everyone's paying the price for this.
Well, let's hit that on the head straight away then, because Spirit Airlines, which was a cheap budget airline for America, has stopped trading, Lembit. They're literally no longer going to be providing these air flights. So we've got a problem already, haven't we?
Yeah, it is. It's collapsed because they were operating at low prices, and it seems to me that they just couldn't change. They couldn't change from the business model they had to something that could work, for the simple reason that they just basically started making a loss on every flight. That's what I think happened. So they've gone down. And this could happen to other budget airlines too. Goodness knows what it's doing to Ryanair and EasyJet's economics.
Yeah, absolutely. That let's get into some of this then, because of course, when we're talking about this, the Straits of Hormuz, it's almost as though nobody knows what's going. And of course, this is on the Iran-Pakistan border. Have a look at this, Lembit. So there are Pakistanis turning up on the Iranian border to buy fuel directly from the Iranians. It is quite incredible, Lembit, that the America think for 1 second, and this is what the Iranians have said, you just do not know how the Gulf works or the people who live in it.
Well, that's a shocking picture, the one you just showed there. It's it's extraordinary. You wonder where they're going exactly, and assuming that's an accurate thing.
Yes, it was.
It's a shocking situation because what you've got there is a whole bunch of people who have no real interest in the geopolitics of it, but want to get cheap petrol. And it just shows what happens when you start monkeying with the market. Sanctions monkey with the market, so people find a way around it. That's all that's going on there.
Exactly that. And while you're talking about sanctions, Lembit, I'm glad you brought that up. China have just directly challenged it now. Literally, China have said this. Have a little look at this. China orders companies in the country not to comply with US sanctions on 5 domestic refiners linked to the Iranian oil trade in a defiant mood aimed at softening the impact of penalties. And once again, this is sanctions and bullying and attacking and everything else. And China are turning around and saying, well, we're not going to do that. What we're going to do is we're going to lift all sanctions for African nations. So there are no sanctions for African nations. And they've literally just challenged America by going, that's it, we're taking no notice of your sanctions whatsoever, and advising companies that will do trade with you anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. I get it. I understand. What do you expect? China is in a comparatively strong position because, well, they're huge. They're neighbors, and they're not really attackable.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody earlier on about microchips. The reason I'm dressed like this because I had a meeting about AI earlier on today. And I'm thinking, how do we know what's in these microchips that's come from China? It's quite possible that everything could be shut down in the flick of a switch. This is why I don't think there can be a war between America and China, because we'd be using Chinese-made weapons against China, essentially, I suspect.
For a long, long time.
Well done, technology. There's so much tech. I went to Taiwan one time. Very impressive. Absolutely amazing place. One time I went there, and they're not hating China. You can almost see it from the coast. And there's massive trade between Taiwan and China. In fact, we flew there via China, I think.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So really, every way you look at it, the West is losing authority. I've set up something called the World Conservative Forum with the precise mission of trying to stop the rusting away of Western values, and with the express intent of at least maintaining parity of esteem with BRICS, which is the ascendant empire at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I said, there's confirmation that China have literally zero tariffs on imports from 53 African countries. So that gives you a heads up. As you know, everybody's going to be friends with China. It's as simple as that. And nobody's friends with America who are bullying people left, right, and centre. Now we are going to lighten the mood a little. This is the Straits of Hormuz for dummies, by the way. I'm sure you don't need a map to be able to find your way there. But there we are, just in case you've no idea where the Straits of Hormuz is. This lady went and put on a set of spray-on leggings so you could track exactly where they were. So just in case you didn't know where the Straits of Hormuz is, you do now. We'll leave that behind because we've got other things to talk about here as well. And one last thing while we're on the subject of Iran. The people that are accompanying the Iranian national football team, Lembit, are being told they are terrorists and therefore they can't enter the country. And FIFA are pushing back on America and saying, if you bar the people who are looking after the Iranians, because Alexis says he loves the map, if you are looking back for people to go and do this, that, and the other, shall we say, for Iranians to go and protect their team, because they are worried that, of course, America will do, as I say, this, that, and the other, and try and get them to defect. FIFA have now pushed back, saying if you don't allow the Iranian people in and give them visas, you will lose your right to host the World Cup for many years to come, Lembit.
Well, I don't like sport being mixed up with politics. When Afghanistan was invaded by the Soviet Union in '79, the 1980 Olympics were held in the Soviet Union, and there were a lot of boycotts. I know somebody actually did go and perform. And Estonia was meant to be doing the water sports part of the Olympics, and Estonia suffered badly, and it wasn't their fault. This whole invasion, it wasn't the public's fault. It wasn't the athletes' fault. And I don't like it. I think it's ham-fisted and clumsy. And so I tend to agree with FIFA, but I would agree with it whichever way it was. If the sport was being, if the event was being conducted in Russia, I'd still hold it. If it was being held in China, I'd still hold it, because it's tokenistic, and it wrecks so many lives. The problem with it, so many, well, sporting careers, because if you're 4 years older, you might be too old. Having said that, I think that the most damaging thing that's happened to the Olympics was the absolute disgrace of the opening ceremony in Paris, where they mocked the Last Supper. They mocked Christianity with this horrendous, incomprehensible transsexual festival, which I didn't want my children to watch. I just wasn't ready to do it. And then, of course, a man won the female boxing, got gold for that.
He did, he battered the woman,
yeah. And so I basically don't have any. I don't have any faith in the IOC, International Olympic Committee, anyway at the moment, because of all of that.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it was quite sickening to watch. I've got to agree with Lembit. Lembit,
that was the Olympics, of course, not the football, but
yes.
I'm just saying I just didn't like it.
Yes. The one last thing before we go, before we leave Iran for a while, Witkoff and Kushner are not wanted by the Iranians at all. They're really no interest in meeting them. And Russia are pretty much, they don't mind meeting Witkoff and Kushner, but they're not going to agree to anything with them because nobody trusts them. Their time, shall we say, as these couple of people, that it's come to an end here, Lembit, hasn't it? I mean, these two real estate brokers who are literally out to make a fast buck for Trump and his mates, they're done, aren't they? Stick a fork in them?
Well, I don't know what their motivations were. You're making a speculation there, but I can't comment on. I don't have any evidence. But it's obvious that Iran is saying we don't want to negotiate with these people. They need to have people who are more empathic than this. There's a chap called Dr. K.A. Paul, who is a preacher who I met when I was in America. And he has got the trust of the Iranians. And he's willing to probably come on to your show, actually, during the week. And they speak to him. I was in a room. He's obviously communicating with the Iranians and with the Americans. Have people who are acceptable to both sides. And it looks to me that these two, Witkoff and Kushner, have squandered whatever credibility they had, if they had any. And it's just not helpful. You've got 350 million people in America. Surely two of them would be able to do a better job than Witkoff and Kushner.
Yeah, you would think so, wouldn't you? And of course, this is something we need to talk about, Lembit, because this is becoming... now, Japan have been running around Asia, trying to make friends with everybody. Very, very simply, they've been trying to get Vietnam and many others to play ball in this blockade of China coming up later. But this was in Japan yesterday. Now, as I call her, the Premier of Japan, old Takechi's castle, she's in a bit of bother because her friendship with America there, that is a protest already, which saw 500,000 people attend. They are not happy about the way it is going, Japan's placement of missiles on islands pointing at Taiwan on behalf of America, Lembit.
Is that what the demonstration was about?
Yes.
It makes Japan a target. Japan, more than most countries, know the devastation of war, both because of their doomed attempt to save their economy by entering World War II, and because they were victims of the first nuclear war, which
Yeah.
was America's attack on Japan. People say that we might have a nuclear war. Well, we have had one because America bombed Japan. They could have actually done a demonstration and probably caused the surrender of the Japanese, but instead they decided to drop the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And I reckon there's quite a lot of younger people there who just don't want Japan to be provoking powerful neighbors.
Yeah, and normally, as Armitage is saying there, still a great name, Armitage Shanks. He's saying there that Japan, very simply, are very reticent normally to protest about anything. Lee Williams.
I was going to say it just matches with everything around the West as well as Asia. Who actually wants wars? I mean, in the UK, who actually said, "Yep, we want a war in Ukraine. Yep, we want to support Israel." And then, thirdly, why would the Japanese people want a war with China?
Yeah,
Why?
absolutely that. No, exactly that. The Japanese people don't. So let's get into one last thing here. This was absolutely sickening, Lembit. This shows you how bad, whether you call them Khazarian mafia, Zionists, whatever you like. That is Ben Gvir, the defense minister's birthday cake, depicting him with a noose to hang Palestinian prisoners. This sort of thing. I mean, it just goes to show you what these people are like, doesn't it?
It's tactless, it's insensitive, and plainly provocative. This is the problem. I was talking to someone about this actually this afternoon. The way that some people use their dislike of Israel and Netanyahu as an excuse to be anti-Semitic, and I don't like that because Judaism is a religion, and I'm not Jewish. I've got I have a different theological perspective, but this makes it very easy for people to conflate, stupid people particularly, conflate a country with a religion, because, oh, look, this is what the Jews are doing now. And so you end up in this argument where you're saying, no, I maybe I disagree with Netanyahu, but that's not the same as hating the Jews. And so it all gets mixed up. And then it's hard because you get attacks on people who are clearly Jewish in Britain. And it's because they've mixed up a religion with a country. I've said this before on your show. It's like saying, oh, you've got to hate Catholics because Tony Blair had an illegal war in Iraq and he's a Catholic. But this is a problem. And so it doesn't help anybody when this kind of story comes out. Yeah. It just increases hate. And I can be absolutely certain, whatever side you're on, if you're a Zionist or not a Zionist, hate will do nothing to resolve these ongoing issues which go across decades. We need to just simmer down a bit and recognize, as you have said many times yourself, the only two ways wars end is by the total capitulation of one side or by negotiated settlement. Those are the only two ways.
Yeah, obliteration or negotiation.
Yes,
that's the only way you're going to settle it. It is. Let's move on to the UK. We've got a bit of a problem, Lembit, because it seems that most of the people don't want David Lammy, and indeed Angela Rayner, with her horrible dress sense, is the front runner now to take over from Keir Starmer when they have the expected collapse on May the 9th. What's your thoughts, Lembit? Are you thinking that Angela Rayner is going to be the new Prime Minister once the dust settles after the May election?
May the 7th. I don't know what you're trying to depict with that picture, but basically the May the 7th local election is going to be catastrophic for Labour. I would say the Conservatives probably won't do quite as badly as is being made out. I think they're going to do slightly less badly. Lib Dems will do well. Greens will do well. This is just a laugh, really. It's shocking. The Greens just, to think of them as a political party is stretching it these days. But Angela Rayner, I've said to you before, I think is the front runner. And I hope she wins when Starmer has to resign. I hope she wins because she'll be the gift that keeps on giving. Imagine
Yeah.
Prime Minister Angela Rayner at the G7. Imagine her, yeah, on the world stage. That's Angela Rayner with Donald Trump. It's I want Labour to choose her. I really do.
It really will be. Oh God. I don't know about and of course we were trying to depict there, and I will explain that. Lembit looked at me very askance there. MP I am, so I will be explaining it, Lembit. MP I am.
So does that make them a perfect pair? Rayner and Trump?
Yeah, could well
a pair to draw to.
Could well do, couldn't it? And of course, the woman dressed in green that we depicted there was, of course, from the Kenny Everett show. And of course, if you remember, called Captain Kremin, and he always had a sidekick dressed in green, rather like Angela Rayner was the other day in this figure-hugging green jumpsuit. And of course, Carla was always depicted as that, and she was just as thick as two short planks. So therefore, I thought I can't help it, Lembit. Every time I see Angela Rayner, I think of Carla from the Captain Kremin series. I can't take her seriously at all. But that is the end of the first half, as I say. And normally, people would turn around. We're going to show you the full show today, but of course, people get very upset if we leave Olga out after the first half.
Nice to see fellow truth warriors here. See you again soon.
So there we go. If we take that away, we get absolute riots. Now, very simply, let's get into this. Because, of course, while we're talking about England, here's a message from James Rossi, who we are going to support on this channel because he is out there actually doing something. He's out there going, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to get elected as a councillor. Have a listen. It's about a minute and a half.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm down here on Bridge Road at the moment. I've just done door knocking Beckett's Close and Gibbons Road and a little tiny bit of a cul-de-sac there on Taylor's Lane. Don't vote Labour, vote for your neighbour. Remember, vote Asif Samir and James Rossi, your local independent candidates. That means no connections to a political party, as in we are not members of a political party. We are not a political party. We are independent candidates that care about the community and want to make a difference, and we will make a difference. Asif is very, very passionate about youth clubs, youth schemes and youth facilities, as am I. We also want to try and force the council to do potholes, pavements, parks, green spaces, and if possible, we'd like to get the council to take responsibility and do the bins. At the moment, a lot of that is all outsourced. We hope to bring that to an end. We're going to try our very best, and we're going to use something called council meeting motions. And if those motions are passed and ratified, things will change. And that's what we hope to achieve. We care about the community, we live in the community, we've got children in the community, we've got family in the community. We want a better community, and we're going to fight for it. We'll be out after the election, if elected, on a regular basis. You'll see us in the streets, you'll see us knocking on the doors, you'll be out to talk to us, okay? Give us the opportunity and give us the mandate. We'll deliver. We're not a political party, remember that.
There we go, James Rossi. And we can't but anything but fully endorse a guy who is as straight as an arrow, lives in the community, part of the community. He's out there talking to people left, right and centre. And of course, James has been a good friend, and we wholeheartedly support him because he's a straight arrow. He doesn't belong to a political party, and he's trying to change the system from within Lembit. That's to be applauded, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I have to say, I operate the world's first fully functional digital democracy. And the reason it works so well is because there are no parties. There are no parties in it. So people are united for the collective common aim of the organization. As a result, you don't get factions developing. That might change in 20 years' time or even sooner. But for now, at least, everybody is on the same side. and that makes a huge difference to everybody. The problem we've got with British politics now is the parties are self-sustaining as an end in themselves. Like any organism, they fight for life, and they care more about. Oftentimes, it feels more about their own success than national success, and I find that whole thing distasteful. I was in the Lib Dems because at the time, at least, it was an authentic and well-meaning attempt at doing a better job of politics. I think they've lost that now. Ed Davey's invisible. I considered him a friend for a long time. He shared an office with me, but he's invisible. Played the Joker during the general election. People say he did well, but I was speaking to Lib Dem activists today, and she was saying she thought that Davey would go. He's not going to go. He's been re-elected to the end of this parliamentary term, 2029. People say he's going to go are wrong, and I think, but you just got these politicians, and they're putting themselves first and their parties first, and that's a real problem for our country. When you got such a low standard in the Labour Party at the moment, it beggars belief that they even won they didn't win the election. They got 20% of the popular vote of electors, got about a third of the actual vote, and they got 2/3 of the seats. Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely crazy, isn't it? Good point, well made. Now I'm going to ask you a bit of a question here, Lembit. Do you know what happened on May the 3rd, 1945, regarding a ship in the Baltic Sea?
No. I don't know what that ship is.
I'd be surprised if you did. Now, there was a cargo tanker that was converted to carry people from the concentration camps, and they were Russian citizens. And this has been hidden for about 80 years. Now, this, shall we say, ship of mercy was carrying 11,455 people. We've managed to get this from our source in Whitehall. It was carrying 11,455 people, and we're going to be doing a special on this from the concentration camps, and they were Russian citizens. They were carrying them through the Baltic Sea, and at the time, literally, Britain was told, the Red Cross told Britain that, of course, this ship was coming through the Baltic Sea, and of course, what was going to happen and everything else. Now, very, very simply, this was on May the 3rd. And of course, as the war was ending, Himmler had ordered the evacuation of the camps. These prisoners, of course, were transported on a Russian ship and taken out to sea. Now, it had been identified by the Red Cross. The Red Cross passed that message on to British General George Roberts, whose forces were advancing in the area. That then went upstairs to Winston Churchill, who gave the all clear to bomb the ship. Now, 355 men survived out of just over 11,000. We're going to be digging into more of this, and we'll obviously be having a special on this. But I just wanted you to know that that had taken place, and we will be talking about this. Robert.
There were dreadful things done certainly by Britain, because Alec Douglas Hume, the Prime Minister, his brother William Douglas Hume, he was an officer in the Guards, and he had seen the bombing of Caen in Normandy when the Germans had already left. But the Allies still ordered the destruction by bombing. And he was then directed, his unit went up to the attack on Le Havre. And the commander, the German commander of Le Havre, asked for a day respite to allow the population to leave. He was refused. About 4,000 civilians were killed. And William Douglas Hume, he served 2 years in prison.
And the British government, well, Westminster has got blood dripping from every keyhole.
Thank you very much for that, Robert. And of course, we will be doing a full program on this because, of course, should we say, there's been a lot of these things that go on. And of course, many people will remember this. Now, we're going to show this now. It's gone past the hour. This is a quick reminder of what happened in Ukraine, in Odessa. Now, very simply, what happened was in the trade union house, what was happening in Odessa were the Russian-speaking people of Ukraine who wanted to remain Russian literally turned around and had a protest outside. It was peaceful. They were handing out leaflets, and suddenly the right sector, the neo-Nazi lunatics who were formerly football hooligans, turned up in their droves, attacked them and forced them into the trade union building in 2014. They then petrol bombed the people inside, and they had people on the roof dropping petrol bombs onto the top of anybody climbing out of the windows. 50 odd people died. Nobody has ever gone to jail for this. And we're going to be speaking about Odessa in a minute. Now, we're going to have a little look at something in a minute, a video which is about 15, 20 minutes long. And it's going to be talking about something that we have said for ages and ages that is going to happen here. And we're going to get into the depths of that. But if you remember, we've been saying for ages and ages and ages that there is no way that Russia are going to allow the Ukrainians to have a seacoast. And that means no Odessa. And we have said over and over again that they will take the 9 oblasts. And of course, the Russians have been talking about this as well. Finally, after all this time of banging away at this and saying there is going to be no peace in Ukraine until Ukraine not only they have Crimea, but they have these 4 oblasts, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, and Odessa, that there's no way they're going to allow them to have a seacoast. And of course, we are going to show you a video now, and then we're going to get Lembit to comment on it. It's about 16, 17 minutes long. But finally, people have caught up with everything that we've been saying because of what happened in Odessa, because they want to be because they want to be Russian. 92% of the people there want to be Russian. There was no way that they were going to let those people down because Putin would be in all sorts of trouble if he did so. So Odessa is going to be part of Russia. And this will, whether it's negotiated or they take it over. And we'll get into the military aspect of that after we've watched this and after we've heard from Lembit.
Over the last few hours, the Russian leadership, the foreign ministry, have been placing heavy emphasis on an event that took place 12 years ago, shortly after the Maidan change of power in Ukraine, the Maidan coup, as the Russians always now speak about it. And by the way, just to make it clear, in my opinion, it was also a coup. But anyway, an event that took place 12 years ago, shortly after those events, and that is the fire that took place in the trade union building in Odessa, when protesters against the new government or regime that had established itself in Kiev, in Odessa, basically withdrew into a trade union building in Odessa, which was then set on fire. Now, this is a ghastly affair, one which has never attracted in the West the attention that it deserves, but one which played a role in shaping Russian opinion of the whole crisis in Ukraine. And when I mean Russian opinion, I mean Russian public opinion of the crisis in Ukraine, which simply cannot be overstated. Firstly, this event took place in Odessa, a city of enormous emotional significance to the Russians, as a major historic city built by Catherine the Great, a city that has played a pivotal role in Russian culture and Russian history, a city which is considered a hero city because of the way it was defended and defended itself during the Second World War. That already would have ensured that an event in Odessa would have attracted a huge amount of attention across Russia. Another factor, I have no doubt, is the fact that this incident took place between two critically important holidays. The 1st of May, which continues to be celebrated as a holiday in Russia, and the 9th of May, which is the day when the Russians celebrate their country's victory over Germany in the Second World War. And of course, not just victory over Germany, the country, but over the ideology that Germany had adopted during the Second World War, and which because of the sensitivities on this platform, I have to be very careful in talking about. But that ideology, which for the Russians, it was a central part of the Second World War for the Russian people to fight against. And the third factor was the gruesome nature of what took place, the deaths of many people, many protesters who of course were protesters who identified themselves with Russia and with Russian culture, and the fact that they were attacked and that the fire is universally believed in Russia to have been started by Ukrainian activists who not only were vehemently hostile to Russia, but who, to the Russian mind, in Russian belief, and actually in reality, in many cases, support or continue that ideology that held power in Germany in the 1940s, which the Russians defeated in the Second World War. So all of this was a shock and it was a transformative event. After what happened in the Odessa fire, it became impossible, in my opinion, for Russia and Ukraine, the new Ukraine, to establish normal relations. It was something that, even if there had been a desire to do it in the Kremlin, would have gone so much against the tide of opinion in Russia itself that it would have been all but impossible. Well, the Russians have repeatedly over the years spoken up about the Odessa fire. Putin himself has done so, but the Foreign Ministry has now released a statement about the Odessa fire, and it says that Ukraine has repeatedly broken its promise to identify and bring the perpetrators of that fire to justice. By the way, that is basically true. There's been minimal attempt by the Ukrainian authorities to investigate or prosecute this incident. And that the justice for the victims of that fire will be achieved when the objectives of the special military operation are achieved. Now that, it seems to me, is an exceptionally important statement, because what it effectively says is that an event that took place in Odessa will only be treated justly, will only receive justice as a result of Russia's achievement of its political and military goal in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. In other words, the goal of the the special military operation now extends to bringing to justice an event, those responsible for an event that took place in Odessa itself. It's the first occasion I am aware of where the Russians, the Foreign Ministry, an institution of the Russian state, has linked directly the special military operation with Odessa. Now, back in the late autumn, early winter of last year, I pointed out that an unusual event took place, consequent upon a meeting that took place between Putin and the military commanders involved in the special military operation. Putin met with them in St. Petersburg. He took them to the Peter and Paul fortress. He brought them before the tombs of Peter the Great and Catherine the Great. Catherine the Great was the founder of Odessa. It seemed to me, both from the briefing that Putin was given and from this really remarkable gesture which Putin gave, that Putin was clearly signaling that the special military operation would only be completed once Odessa itself had been brought in some way under Russian control. And on that, I noticed something further as well, which is that in a meeting with military officials, that the Russian commander of the Russian forces in the area of the special military operation undertook a meeting, a photograph of this meeting, the commander of course being General Gerasimov. Behind Gerasimov there was a map which showed all of southeastern Ukraine under Russian control, including Odessa itself. Well, it seems to me that these comments from the Russians, this highlighting of the event that took place in Odessa in 2014, in May 2014, gives a clear further clue about long-term Russian intentions. One way or the other, in some form or other, the Russians intend that Odessa will be liberated from the current regime, as they call it, in Kiev. And personally, I have no doubt that the long-term objective is to reunite it, as the Russians would say, to the motherland. Now, that brings me to certain comments that the head of the Donetsk regional government, I should say the Russian-backed Donetsk regional government, Denis Pushilin, has also made. He has said that there is no possibility, no mechanism whereby the current government in Kiev can be ousted from power by any form of political process. He said that the government, the regime in Kiev, has entrenched itself. It has used its control of the SBU, the counterintelligence agency, which many say has evolved into a kind of secret police organization, to eliminate all of its opponents. Its opponents are either dead or in prison or in exile. That sustained protest to achieve its overthrow in today's Ukraine is impossible. And, well, given that the Russians have increasingly made clear that the government in Kiev itself is, as far as they are concerned, the fundamental obstacle to peace in Ukraine and to a peaceful resolution of the conflict in Ukraine, the logic of what Pushilin said, well, it seems to me that it clearly points to a plan to eventually remove by force in some way that government.
There we are. So everything that we've been saying about Odessa and everything that, of course, we've been saying for ages, this is bare minimum. What you're seeing in the blue here, this is bare minimum that Russia are going to accept. And, of course, the talks with America are dead in the water. And, of course, the blows to the Russian refineries and everything else, they can absorb them. And just to give you a quick update before we go to Lembit, a year and a half ago, Russian GDP was minus 2.2. Then it went to minus 1.3 just a few months ago. And of course, Putin was really unhappy with, of course, the woman in charge of the central bank. Now they have a 1.3 surplus. So now they're plus 1.3 in their GDP. So they've got it all back on track. And of course, this is going to continue. This war will continue until Odessa, one way or another, is negotiated away. And we're going to talk about how close we could be to that, to a European war over Odessa in a minute. But we're going to let Lembit have his say first. Lembit, over to you, my friend.
Well, that was a detailed and exhaustive analysis of the incidents in Odessa. Let's remember, though, those incidents indicate a mindset in the then Ukrainian administration. And
yes.
That's really serious. If that happened in this country, it's the kind of thing that could bring down a government, actually. Yeah. And the lack of reportage in the mainstream media is because they're in collusion with the mainstream establishment politicians, and that's not a healthy situation to be in. You're not allowed to think that Russia has any case whatever for its military action. I was working for a client, and after I tried to explain that Russia may have a point, they had me in front of the board and they were going to fire me until I made the case, and they couldn't argue against it. And I just thought, this is what we've come to in this country. You're not even allowed to express a dissenting opinion to the mainstream.
Crazy, isn't it? Mark Onza, on you go, and then we'll get into the military and where we believe this is going, and then we'll talk about the Donbass. Then we've got some stuff on Anhesh as well that we want to talk about. Mark Onza.
Yeah, Warren, one of the things I take away from that video is this is not going to be over, even when it comes to an end as regards Nazi hunters.
No.
You know, we Russian, they had film Red Ghost. In West, we had in Glorious Bastard, Indigenous Bastards, you know, with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
They're going to hunt them Nazis and them perpetrators of that union building down, even after it's over.
Mark, you're absolutely correct. There is no way that, and if when you understand the Russian psyche on this sort of thing, and of course, many of them don't. So it's going to get worse and worse and worse. So let's get into where the problem's going to lie. It's not going to be with Germany to start with. Germany, America are saying they're going to pull 5,000 troops out of there. And of course, that still leave about 30,000 still there. So, of course, all this nonsense about it's going to do this and it's going to do that. Trump's not going to give up the bases there. He's just going to downsize and walk away from the war. He's not leaving as such. He's just doing his bits and pieces. So let's get into the Odessa overview. And this is where we're going to get closest to the European war, if at all possible. Now, down here is one of the largest in Romania, just outside of a place called Constanta. What you are looking at here is very much one of the largest Air Force bases. In fact, it's going to be the largest NATO Air Force base. It was beforehand. It's now being built because they want to try and control the Black Sea. And of course, from our friend in French military intelligence, we know that there are many French vehicles there and many French soldiers that are placed here in a place called Tulsia, which would enable them, should Odessa look like falling once Mykolaiv goes, would enable them, if they so choose, to make a dash for Odessa to try and secure that port. And it is when the French get there, when the French decide, if the French decide that they're going to go for broke and they're going to go there and they're going to hold off the Russians or take over Odessa, as you can see from here from the map. And of course, Odessa at the moment is blockaded, but they are also now bombing the railways and they are bombing the road system in Odessa to make sure, of course, that supplies can't get through there. And of course, this is going to be very much one of those things. Now, whether they go in, French also have troops placed in Moldova, which also tells you, of course, that Odessa is on their bingo card. Lembit.
Well, I can't see how they can get there. If Western countries start messing around in Odessa, they'll pay the price. All this nonsense about whether 5,000 troops makes a difference, it's symbolic. Yeah. But Russia's not going to invade Germany anyway. There's no point.
No.
Britain doesn't really need an army anymore, not to defend Britain, because nobody wants to invade it. It's silly.
Why would you want to invade Germany when they don't have any industry left?
Yeah, because the Greens have done more damage than Russia ever would.
Yeah, exactly that.
So the only reason Britain might have military resources is for occasional operations in relevant territories abroad. But as far as the UK itself is concerned, when complete idiots like Labour ministers say, "Oh, prepare for war," come off it. Does anyone believe that? It's just ridiculous. Actually ridiculous. And
absolutely that.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. So let's get into this now, because, of course, very much show you, because Lembit turned around and said, of course, they're going to need to replace those people. Now, if you remember the people who are in Ukraine, now, if you remember, we showed you this woman who is pregnant. She was a drone operator, of course, and we showed you the video, and we wanted to give you a couple of days, and nobody really noticed it. But now you can notice the badge, of course, that it's down at the bottom of her uniform, as you can see. No neo-Nazis in Ukraine whatsoever. And of course, we've got further proof of this with, of course, the group called the Nightingale, if you like, that, of course, are there in Ukraine as well. And of course, they are named after a notorious group of neo-Nazis. And you've only got to mention the word Nazi to Russians to see the reaction you get from them. So just giving you a heads up. And now let's get on to what is getting very close to being the moment where we see a real breakthrough this summer. And this is where it's going to be. So Lyman, first of all, has Russian troops inside it fighting already. And of course, Lyman is going to be one of the places they want to take. Now, bear with me for a second. Lyman is the first place they're going to want to take. And the Russians are now that the roads have firmed up, are now in here, this area here, and they're now in this area here, pushing on to Konstantinivka. So very soon, Konstantinivka, they now have captured completely this crossroads, which of course is excellent for them. So Konstantinivka will be falling this summer, and the battle for the Donbass, or what's left of the Donbass, will start in earnest. Now, Lyman is up here. They will be looking to cut off and literally take over these areas here at the top by Sloviansk, which will give them complete fire control from this area into Sloviansk. And of course, once they take Konstantinivka, they'll be pushing on to Dushkivka. Dobrofilia is now in Russian hands, and the whole idea is to get up to here with this unit. Will make a push into here over the course of this year to Alexandrivka, and that will cut off that final supply road into Kramatorsk. And of course, Kramatorsk and Slaviansk, once they are in Russian hands, that will be the Donbass in full control. And we're just going to give you an outcrop now of the literally square kilometers that they had. So 99.8% of Luhansk is in Russian hands. 83% of Donetsk is in Russian hands. 79% of Zaporizhia is in Russian hands. 75% Kherson. Only 6% of Kharkiv. 3% of Sumy. 1.5% of Mykolaiv, and about 1% of Dnipropetrovsk. But 99% of Luhansk and 83.2% of Donetsk is in Russian control, and that constitutes the Donbass. And that is where we've been saying for a while that it's going to happen. But we are telling you that 2026, we've had confirmation from sources inside of Russia that that is the big push for this year coming up, Lembit, for this summer.
Well, you've been generally right. All the way along. Two questions for you. The first one is, the mainstream media say that they continue to say that Russia is paying a huge price in terms of lives, but you don't believe that. You think
Not at all.
You really think it's the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll start with that one then. What do you say to those who watch the mainstream media and are repeatedly informed that Russia can't afford the death rate?
Yeah. First of all, Russia can afford the death rate, even if it was the same as Ukraine's. Now, Ukraine's death rate throughout the course of the war has been 17 to 1 as an average across the entire course of the war. Sometimes it's been much higher, sometimes lower. It really started to change around about the battle for Bakhmut when that first started. And of course, the Russians were literally taking 8 Ukrainian lives for every Russian life going. And of course, as their best troops have been getting killed, then of course your troops that come in are less capable. Now, there's going to be Americans out there who go, no, we didn't do that. I'm telling you, I've heard from many veterans who said when they were in the Vietnam War, they wouldn't bother with the brand new recruits because if they lasted 30 days, then they'd start to teach them stuff to help them along their way and survive. But it was completely pointless trying to teach a brand new recruit anything about surviving in Vietnam for the simple fact that they thought they were just possibly going to get everybody else killed. So veteran troops in Vietnam did not bother teaching new recruits anything about Vietnam, very little indeed, because it was a complete waste of time because they were going to be dead within 30 days. And the same thing happens in Ukraine. Really, really experienced troops, the only ones that Ukraine have left. They'd much rather see the new recruits go onto the front line. They're going to get killed because they're not going to waste their lives because, of course, some raw recruit has popped his head out of a trench when not checking first to see if there's any drones overhead, and, of course, gives a position away which then gets bombed. So, Lembit, my very simple thing is here, if we have seen consistently over the months the amount of exchanges of dead bodies, that is because Russia are moving forward and the Ukrainians are retreating and therefore don't have time to gather up the bodies and bury them. So if Ukraine are winning, how comes they're not coming across all the Russian bodies and in the exchanges as well? And we know from this, even if it were reversed, the Russians were losing 17 to 1, which is nonsense. Even if it were reversed, Russia could still bear the brunt of this. They've got these so many millions of people they can put into the army. They are still holding back. They're still holding back 700,000 troops because they believe that NATO will enter this war at some point. And of course, they are rotating these troops in and out. So during this time, they're getting experience as well, Lembit.
Why do they think NATO will come into it? Europe is so utterly ineffective at the moment, so utterly and totally ineffective that it's hard to understand why Europe would even bother.
Yeah, exactly. But Britain,
bother,
of course,
but it's just throwing bad money and a lot more lives after good money and the lives already lost.
Yeah, they don't believe. I mean, one, they don't believe we can win it, but they believe that the European Union is crazy enough to give it a go.
It's just nuts. There are things which are amusing, things like the idea of Angela Rayner being prime minister. That's just plain funny. It's just funny, but it's not funny when lives are being lost.
Yes,
and the war could escalate out of control. And the last thing I want to see is a war between Russia and NATO, because that could become catastrophic. Yeah, absolutely right. Louis Bastos waiting to talk on this, and then stay on the line, Louis, because we're going into your area of expertise. Louis Bastos.
The problem is that the troops, the Ukrainian troops, instead of getting arms from Zelensky, he's selling all the weapons to the Middle East.
Yeah.
And as you know, wars are not meant to be won. They are meant to make money with weapons. Unfortunately, the innocent are the ones that die.
Yeah, politicians, arms dealers.
NATO wants war because they're trying to kick America out of Europe, and they want to make their own weapons now.
Yeah, exactly that. But then again, they got talked into the war in the first place by the Americans, so it shows how stupid they are. And the Russians see this and they think they're crazy enough to carry on.
Thanks to Boris Johnson, they're still fighting.
Yep. Well, Boris Johnson and Joe Biden. But here's the thing, and he's absolutely right. And we say this over and over again on this show. Politicians, arms dealers, bankers win wars. Everybody else pays either in blood or economically. It's as simple as that. Stay with us, Louis, because we are going to debunk this once and for all. This is the Andromeda yacht, by the way, which is going to show you this here. This is the Andromeda yacht. Huge vessel, 50 foot long. And of course, this is the yacht that they are saying that 5 divers and 8 crew members used to bomb the Nord Stream pipeline. We thought we'd do this. I had a little word with Louis as well. This is a decompression chamber. Okay, very small one, very tiny one. Just so you know, big enough for one person. Now, when we look at these decompression chambers, they're about 20 foot long. Okay, this is obviously a big one. Can fit 2 people inside. And this is your bog standard. This is a used one up for sale. This is a bog standard decompression chamber. As I say, 20 foot long. This is the Andromeda, 50 foot long. So they would need 3 of these on the Andromeda, 2 or 3 of these on the Andromeda Lembit for it to have been able to do that. I'm not sure about you, but I can't see too many of these decompression chambers on the yacht there.
No, it's clearly nonsense. Absolute rubbish. The whole claim that this is some sort of a lone wolf operation. It's just preposterous. I assume that Russia had absolutely no motivation to blow up the pipeline, so we can exclude them.
Can just turn the spigot off.
Yeah, that's all they have to do. And why would they do it? They were making a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
And so that leaves other obvious suspects, but the most obvious one would be Ukraine. But
yes.
I don't know who you think. Who do you think?
It clearly wasn't them. The French and the Americans. The Americans were hovering over the Nord Stream pipeline and were there on manoeuvres a week before the pipeline got blown up. I wonder. Let's hear from Louis Bastos on the because he was a deep sea diver, Louis, and has been on many round the world yacht races. Louis, your thoughts? Did you see any decompression chambers on there?
That 50-foot yacht is a Beneteau 50-foot, a French boat. It is a sloop. And if you look at the decompression chamber, they all come in 20-foot containers, square. Yeah. And all the railings underneath, all the electronics. If you look at this boat is 3 meters wide. And below the waterline, you can see there it is the flooring of the inside of the boat. There's no way you can fit a 20-foot container anywhere on this, on the bow, the stern, or the center.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can fit even one decompression chamber in it. I've raced on a 51-foot Swan, which is 1 foot smaller than this. And there's no way that the decompression chamber can fit on this thing, not even on deck, not on the foredeck, not in the cockpit, because there's no way. It's impossible to put this thing that you're showing me on that yacht. Impossible.
Yeah. Absolutely. And now we're going to give you the final.
Just before you go further, was this boat necessarily associated with the claim that it was being used for this attack? And secondly, did they necessarily have to dive down to the pipeline? They couldn't do it with a depth charge or something.
No,
you have to go down to put the depth charger on the pipeline.
Yeah,
and you need mixed gases to go to that depth. You can't just dive with normal a 20 liter air tank. It's not possible because that is very deep. We dive with a normal 20 liter tank to 40 meters, and the maximum time you can spend at 40 meters is 10 minutes because you need to decompress. And most of the time when you do just casual diving to 20 or 17 meters, when you pressure on your meter gets to 50, everybody starts to move and going up. You cannot stay below because you might get entrapped or something. So at 20 bars, 50 bars, everybody starts moving to decompress. There is no way that one person can do that, and there's no way they can send down some kind of drone to put a charge. And they were saying that they were doing, a woman was diving. I mean, it's all pathetic. It's all made up.
Who ended up being, who was actually an ex-porn star. And if they were caught, get this, Lembit, if they were caught, they were going to say the excuse was going to be they were filming underwater pornography.
The only way you can get it from the surface is by dragging anchors and stretching that thing so much that the thing will open up. But those cables are very strong, and there's no way the anchor can drag and open those cables.
Now, thank you very much for that, Louis. Now we're going to give you the final nail in the coffin regarding the Andromeda. And after that, I don't want to hear no more about it. Can somebody please explain to me how the Andromeda took part in the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline when we had the Ukrainian boatyard saying that it was moored in, saying that it was out of the water, having its hull cleaned at the time? Please explain to me how it took part in that bombing. When we
timer. A timer.
Yeah, absolutely. You climbed in a time machine and then went backwards.
No, I mean, you had a timer on the bomb.
Yes.
You put it there 2 weeks earlier, then you took it out of the water. Hey ho, job's done. And you still got to explain to me how you managed to decompress there. The fact that the American and the French Navy who helped take part in this were actually an hour away from the Nord Stream pipeline when it blew up in their intelligence vessel that, of course, is designed for this. So we're just giving you a heads up there. By the way, just in case anybody is interested in the football, Aston Villa are losing to Tottenham Hotspur 2-0 down. So it looks as though Tottenham may be escaping or may have at least given them a chance to escape when nobody thought they possibly would. Let's get into a couple of things now that, of course, people are saying now conspiracy theories. I'm only going to play, there we go, it finished 2-1, Tottenham Hotspur 1, and of course that dents Aston Villa's chances. We're going to get into a couple of things that people will call conspiracy now, but we're only going to play a couple of minutes of this. This is the space scientists, of which there are 12 dead or missing, Lembit.
The White House and FBI are investigating a string of suspicious deaths and disappearances of at least 11 U.S. scientists, many of whom are involved in classified aerospace, nuclear, and defense research.
Joining us tonight, Crime Stories investigative reporter Dave Mack. Dave Mack, what more can you tell us?
Nancy, we have two more names of scientists, military insiders who are now missing or dead. Two more to add to that list. These are some of the most amazing things we've seen yet. First of all, Matthew Sullivan, a 39-year-old former U.S. Air Force intelligence officer, and a 29-year-old NASA nuclear scientist, Joshua LeBlanc. Matthew Sullivan was scheduled to testify in a whistleblower hearing that was taking place on Capitol Hill. Think about it. A hearing for whistleblowers about UFOs and UFO intelligence within the military. And before he had a chance to testify at that whistleblower hearing, Matthew Sullivan, dead. The circumstances of his death are being questioned by many close to him, but he's gone. NASA nuclear engineer, 29-year-old Joshua LeBlanc, Huntsville, Alabama. Like many of those who have gone missing, Joshua LeBlanc, at 29 years old, was reported missing around 4:30 in the morning. He left his wallet, keys, phone, stuff like that at home, but he was gone, and his family couldn't find him. He didn't show up for work. They were concerned. All day long, Huntsville police were looking for Joshua LeBlanc. This nuclear scientist who was working on nuclear propulsion for NASA was missing all day. 2:45 that afternoon, a fiery crash involving Joshua LeBlanc's Tesla. The crash was so bad, he hit a guardrail, crashed into some trees. His body, not even identifiable for 3 days. When they finally got into the investigation, they were able to go into the Tesla Sentry mode and found out his vehicle, this Tesla, was parked at the Huntsville airport for 4 hours the morning he was reported missing.
Many occurrences. In all, we have 12 scientists missing, 12 scientists that are either missing or died. There are a couple of female scientists that the same thing, 4 a.m. in the morning, gone out for a walk. Why they're going out for 4 a.m. in the morning, I don't know. But they've gone out for a walk or to meet someone. And in one case, one woman has just simply disappeared off the planet. Another guy is simply disappeared off the planet. One of these scientists went out for a walk at 4 a.m. in the morning, for another female scientist, and of course, left her daughter in the house on her own, wandered off, and of course, they found her body much later and under very suspicious circumstances. And of course, 5 of these people were working directly under the general in charge of this propulsion unit working for NASA, and that general too is dead. Lembit, people say conspiracy theory, but my God, what a coincidence.
What's the motive? What's the motive?
Whatever, I would imagine whatever they were working on to do with NASA, I would think, because they were all working, 5 of these people were working directly under this general working at NASA.
I don't know enough about the actual case. I haven't studied it. But if these 12 people have indeed died, then it gets very mysterious. It reminds me of the AFD in Germany, where mysteriously a whole bunch of their candidates died. And the mainstream media said it was just a coincidence. Didn't really count, didn't matter. And
it's quite staggering. And of course, we thought we'd bring it to your attention because it is, whether you think it's a story or not, we have to turn around and say, it doesn't look too good. And there is something else that I want to bring to your attention now. This happened a while back, Lembit, but there was something, there was a show on that said, look, something has happened in terms of, Ellen DeGeneres and how can I put this, people, should we say, disappearing because of what they said and people getting killed, what they said. Now, this sort of ties in with the Epstein files and Hollywood and everything. This is Gabriela Rico Jimenez, of course, who, of course, had a meltdown in Mexico while attending an elite party, and she's never been seen since. Have a listen.
¡Comieron humanos! ¡Asquerosidad! ¡Comieron humanos! Yo no estaba enterada de nada. Que había, de los asesinatos sí, pero que habían comido humanos. ¡Humanos! ¡Fue la carne humana!
Now, of course, that could, of course, just be a totally deranged woman, but she disappeared off the face of the planet. Nothing's ever been heard from her since. They said she was sent to the police station. Nobody's been able to track which police station she was taken to or which sanatorium they said she attended. And of course, Anne Hesh was about to make a documentary saying basically the same thing that in Hollywood and everything else. And I've already tried to contact parents. Nobody is talking. They very, very simply, and of course, it is interesting because Anne Hesh, if you remember, crashed her car. Now, everybody was saying that she was under the influence, and somebody took a video reported to be Anne Hesh in her Mini Cooper crashing into a garage before she took off. There is video evidence of her running a red light, and of course, many people are talking about this. We're going to show you a video in a second, which is very disturbing. Paul Cardin, welcome to the show, Paul. Just open up your mic, Paul.
Hi, Warren. Yeah, open now. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, this subject of the missing scientists,
Yes.
it reminds me of there was a book out a few years ago called Open Verdict by Tony Collins. And
Yes.
this was an account of 25 mysterious deaths in the defense industry in the UK. These were mainly suicides, and they were crazy suicides. One of them, a fella got in his car, tied a noose around his neck, tied the other end of the rope to a tree, and drove off and decapitated himself. That was just one of them. And there were lots of other crazy suicides. Now, I don't want to go on for too long, but back in 1982, I was in the Falklands War. I was on HMS
Yeah,
Yarmouth.
I know you
Yeah,
were. Same
yeah.
as me. You were at San Carlos Water, weren't you?
That's right. Yeah, I was on HMS Yarmouth, which was a very busy
Yes.
ship down there. But
I
after the
remember
war
you
had
getting
ended,
attacked.
yeah, we were getting attacked a lot. I can tell you about that one day. But on the subject of this, after the war had ended on the 20th of June, we went to a place called South Thule, Thule. That's part of the South Sandwich Islands.
Yes.
And we cleared off about 15 Argentinian scientists who'd basically landed there in 1975 or something, and they've been there for ages. We took the opportunity to get rid of them and move them. But later on, somebody alleged, it was actually a SAS fella, I think. He
Yeah.
was on South Tool with his platoon or whatever, and he alleged that they found these crates, about 60 huge crates, and one of the lads opened the lid, and it was full of what was called black goo, what they call black goo. And I've been researching this stuff, and it's described as a sentient substance. So I don't really, it's very conspiratorial, this, but it was
Yeah.
alleged that this was put onto a cargo ship and taken back to the UK, and people have alleged that Marconi were working with it, and somebody linked these deaths of Marconi scientists to this black goo. I
So
don't
that
know how
stuff
true
they
this
were
is.
using.
Yeah, it's
Fan-
worth looking up all this and
Yeah,
researching.
I tell you what, we'll have a little chat about that at a later date, Paul. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Okay.
much for that. Interesting
Cheers.
stuff. And send me a link to the scientists, and we'll have a little show on that. Let's grab onto this then. So what we're about to show you now may be a little disturbing. This is Anne Heck, and she is literally, this is just after a Mini has crashed into a house and disturbed it completely. We are going to play this video. This is her now being moved into the ambulance. Now, I'm not going to get into all the theories behind this, but I am going to get into the medical practice of this. Have a look.
That anxious or that quick moving that was going on the other side of the vehicle. Oh my gosh, he's completely alive. He was trying to get away. He was.
So once again, let's have a look. We'll replay that for you. There's Anne Heck, and we're going to pause it.
Other side of the vehicle.
Now she's coming out of the bag there, and as you can see, that's quite consistent. The burns are quite consistent from somebody who was wearing a top and had that cut away. She is there trying to release the restraints on her legs. And if we just come back a little touch from that, we'll just go ahead. And then she is literally carted away here. Now we're going to have a look at this as it approaches once again. Here we go. And as you can see, the restraint there, when it was zoomed in on, showed that it was across the top of her head and across her legs as well. And that, of course, this was a blanket that was double wrapped. Everybody's saying it's a body bag. It wasn't. It was a blanket that was double wrapped across her. Now we have a problem medically. Let's have a look a bit further. And there you can see she's moved. She's managed to get the restraint from the top of her head. Now she's about to sit up, and she's also putting her elbows down on the gurney.
Oh my gosh.
And then she's about to sit up and try and free her own hands. Now, many people free her own legs. Sorry. Now, many people will turn around and go, "Oh well, just this, that, and the other." Well, as you know, we have quite good friends in the medical industry, and of course she was alive. Now the police said that she wasn't alive. Then they changed their minds and said she was injured, and of course many other people were turning around and saying, "Oh, well, it can't possibly be this, that, and the other." Let's have a little look. We're going to have a little look at a video here of what they said on the news about this. Let's have a look.
Caught on fire, as did the house. In the car, according to TMZ, is reporting Ann Hesh was inside the car when that happened. Let's show you some video from Sky 5 HD. You can see the driver of the car being taken out of the home after firefighters got here and were able to get her out of the car. TMZ reporting that that is Ann Hesh that was inside the car. As we said, KTLA has confirmed the car is registered to Ann Hesh. She was speaking, according to firefighters, when they got her out. You can see her at the very end there kind of pop up before she was put into the ambulance.
Work today. Now, many people have turned around and said, of course, that there's nothing to see here, Gov, honest. Now, I spoke to a burns unit guy because I thought this was a bit strange because I've attended people who've been burnt. And I know that Paul, of course, in the Falklands, and many of our sailors, got badly burnt. First of all, you're so badly burnt. They've cut away her clothing. You can see where the rest of her skin clearly isn't burnt. So that shows that maybe fire has caught hold of the clothing rather than, of course, the rest of her body. And of course, the very first thing you do is you make sure that the airways are clear because they're going to have smoke inhalation. And the very first thing, now I've been speaking to somebody at Stoke Mandeville Hospital in Aylesbury, who I've known for many, many years, and he was in charge of the burns unit there. And when I showed him the footage and I asked him, he said it was very, very strange indeed, because the very first thing you would do is make sure they are getting enough oxygen, that they're actually getting pure oxygen into their lungs and and also an IV into their arm. And he could not believe, first of all, you wouldn't be putting blankets on them if you can possibly help it, because they're suffering from burns. Anything is going to be an irritation, and you're going to have fibers that will, of course, do that. And there are specially designed covers for these people. You certainly wouldn't cover their face or their airway. And of course, she had no oxygen mask on whatsoever. And of course, the strap was across the top of her head. Now, in all his years dealing with burns victims, he has never known where they didn't have an IV in and they didn't have an oxygen mask on before they were transferred into an ambulance when it comes to a burns victim because of the shock. And they certainly wouldn't be covering the face and head. Lembit, and of course, people will go, oh, conspiracy theory this, conspiracy theory that. But for you, does this look right to you, Lembit?
No, it doesn't look at all right. What I don't understand is the motive. Again, what do they think they could do?
She was working on a documentary to blow the whistle about Ellen DeGeneres and the LA link to Epstein and the procurement of children.
Okay, well then there's the motive. What this is really dark. That video is really dark. It looks like there were two different drones or helicopters filming that because they're slightly different angles for the sitting up point. Why would they have said she was dead when she clearly was not?
So here's the thing. There is a guy out there, by the way, who's a conspiracy theorist, and he's saying all this, that, and the other. And I'll go to Sean Murphy and Louis Bastos in a moment. But there is a guy out there who's a conspiracy theorist and saying this, that, and the other. Now he's going on about all the weird elements of this. But if indeed she was, shall we say, driving under the influence, there is no question that, of course, she could have been taking something herself or could have been fed something. But it is highly likely, I am being told by this guy, who said, first of all, they would have given her pain medication. Everybody was then saying that she had cocaine in her system. She did not. Okay. Did she have ketamine in her system? Yes, she did. But they're saying that ketamine was applied to her in the hospital, and that's why it showed up in the autopsy. So the whole thing starts to take on a sort of strange thing. Why you'd be giving ketamine to a person? And I said, would you give ketamine to a burns victim? He said, no, I wouldn't. He said, and of course, he was in charge of the burns unit for over 30 years at Stoke Mandeville Hospital. So there's a lot wrong with this. And of course, somebody could have spiked her, or she could have been taking it herself before she took off. And if she was driving under the influence, he is saying that it is possible that, of course, the effect of the drug wore off because she was in such pain from the fire that was caused by her crashing. She was very drowsy, and of course, she accelerated through a light at 60 miles an hour. Quite how you do that if you're super drowsy. So there's a hell of a lot that is wrong with this. We're going to go Lee. We're going to go Sean Murphy, Louis Bastos, then Lee Williams, then back to Lembit. Sean Murphy.
Well, Warren, excuse me. As you may not know, but I had extensive experience of working in a burns unit.
Yes, I know.
Especially from the surgical side at the QE. I mean, I've done a lot of work on, Simon Weston later on.
Yes.
So, and who I know quite well. But I've worked on countless burns patients, and you would give it their fluid loss when you put them in the shock room. They're sort of they're on a mesh table, which is over like a bath.
Yeah.
And it's not to bathe them or cool them down. It's because they lose so much fluid through the burns.
Yeah.
But you would certainly have as many IVs in. You'd have one in each foot. You'd have one in each arm. You'd have one in each hands. If they were accessible, you would have them a central line in the neck. You would be pouring fluid into that patient to replace the fluid that's actually coming out because of the burns. You know what it's like when you get a blister?
Yes.
And basically a blister is just a superficial burn caused by friction, but it can be quite big. And if you go to pop the burn, you go to pop the blister, there's absolutely masses of fluid, serous fluid that comes out of that, and that is why they go into shock, because they're losing circulating body fluids.
So why didn't she have an IV in, Sean, before she was moved?
Well, that's the first thing you'd do.
Yeah.
You'd intubate. At the same time, a paramedic or whoever, or an anaesthetist, is intubating. And I mean a proper intubation, not just a laryngeal mask airway or an eye gel or something like that. You'd put a proper cuffed endotracheal tube in, and so that you've got a patent airway.
Yeah.
Because that's really important. You would be giving the patient oxygen.
Why didn't she have an oxygen mask on?
Well, if she was intubated, she wouldn't need an oxygen mask, but she clearly wasn't intubated, because her first reaction wasn't to reach up and pull. And this is people's first reaction. If they've been intubated, their first reaction on awaking is to reach up and pull the tube out.
Yeah.
That's and I've seen it many a time. That's their first reaction, is to extubate themselves. Because it's very irritant.
Why are they covering her whole head and, of course, putting a strap across the top of her head?
Because they don't want her. They don't want her to move. They're going to claim she was dead, and when she got to hospital, she was dead on arrival. Whilst they finish her off in the ambulance.
Yeah, and as you can see, you can quite clearly see from that the outline of the burns. Now that looks like one of those tops that women wear that has been cut away. Quite weird.
Like a sports top.
Yeah, exactly that. So which suggests, as you can see, there's clear evidence there that there is clear skin, and of course, if you've got burnt elbows and everything else, you're not going to bang them down on the gurney at the speed she did there. It seems.
I mean, she doesn't seem to be too seriously burnt.
She's also trying to free her legs as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So she's trying to free herself. She knows that they're trying to kill her.
Certainly is. There's lots of questions to be asked. Louis Bastos, and then we'll go Lee Williams, and then we'll go Nillis, and then we'll go back to Lembic for his final thoughts. Louis Bastos.
As a yacht captain, offshore commercial indoors, we had to do 6 months in the ER section of hospitals to get our training as a captain. And the thing you apply to burns is paraffin gauze. You do not cover anything apart from putting paraffin gauze on the wounds.
Yeah.
You take all the clothes must come off, oxygen, IV, and paraffin gauze is what you use.
Thank you very much, Louis. Lee Williams and then Nillis.
I was going to say it's a famous event. There was some guy, I don't know if I sent it to you or if you've done it on the news, where a guy was running away from the hospital because a lot of people are still alive and they actually take some of the organs out of them while they're alive. So was that an experience that they wanted to kill her for one?
Already shown in the Ukrainian ER when they were killing people for the organs. Thank you very much for that.
They've done it in America as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nillis was next, then Sean Murphy, then we're going back to Lembit for the last word. Nillis.
Yeah, both the ambulance and I think it was a fire engine in the scene, they both had numbers on. So we could trace back where they came from and were they genuine crews, or were they, because I don't think a genuine crew would do that. There would probably have to be people that were infiltrated, driving those ambulances and that fire engine.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sort of going to go down any roads, because if you go down roads, then you can't come back to the truth. But the truth of it is, you wouldn't treat a burns victim in that way whatsoever.
Yeah, but what we're saying is they got the numbers. They got the number of the ambulance there,
so they can trace it. But it is staggering that you would think there's no way that would happen. That is very, very odd indeed. Sean Murphy.
Well, Lewis was absolutely right about dressings. If you were going to apply dressings, it would be, I suppose, initially you would use paraffin gauze.
Yeah.
Like the long tins of Gelinet.
Yeah.
To wrap the wound. But alternately, you've got to clean that all off. And there's a cream called, I can't remember what the trade name is. It's called silver sulfonamide.
Yeah.
And the silver is a great antiseptic, and it keeps the wounds.
Yes.
Stops the infection, because one of the greatest risks with burns, of course, is because you've got open areas, because the skin barrier is broken down.
The infection.
Is the infection. But she didn't seem to have massive burns, upper arms, perhaps shoulder, from
shoulder and
front
back
of the shoulders. Her back didn't look particularly burnt.
Yeah.
The upper forearms, just to the rear of the axilla, looked as though it was burnt. But what they were doing there does not ring true.
No, and that was my thing on that. Thank you very much for that, Sean. And that's a guy who's been the Royal Army Medical Corps for years and years and years, saying that wouldn't happen. And of course, when I sent it off to our guy, who ran the burns unit for 30 years, he said, first of all, you wouldn't put any straps across whatsoever, because you're actually the last thing you want to do is be putting any weight on those burns. Let's go to Lembit for the last word. Then we're going to show you something for a bit of fun towards the end, and then we're going to do the op. Lembit, your thoughts? Final thought.
I think that what bothers me is it's a really graphic, frightening piece of video, and if it's not fake, it just raises so many questions. It's like a horror film. A horror film.
Yeah.
And this Epstein thing just keeps running and running and running.
And of course, they're
very
saying
powerful people, and you wonder who is in there, and you wonder what's going on. It really does bother me so much.
that video for me is absolutely chilling because there is no medical reason for her being on a gurney like that. None, absolutely none. Now, people can go down all sorts of rabbit holes of this, that, and the other, but there is no doubt whatsoever that she's perfectly okay in that video. She may be burnt, but she is not on death's door. Absolutely not. And she's actually trying to free her legs. So given that she was working with somebody else, and there's a lot of people out there making these strange videos, you know, where they've got guys who are talking through a voice disguiser and being blacked out. Well, hang on, if you've got something to say and you are an insider and you were working on this documentary with Han Hesh, just come out and say it. You know, you can pretty much put anybody behind a microphone and say, do us a favor, I'm going to black your image out and you can just talk about this and we'll make plenty of money off it on YouTube. If you knew something that went on with Han Hesh and everything else and what was going on, come out and say it. We have done here. We've actually given you the Epstein list. The thing that gets me, though, and same with Lembit, when you see that, it looks like somebody's struggling to get away, even though she's, you know, in pain, disorientated or whatever. And they just bundle her into the ambulance. Not good. Spooky stuff.
Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me so much. I just feel that we're living in a dark world, and it could be that with the Epstein absolute fiasco and scandal, some people are very close to being found out, and they're taking very dramatic efforts to try to protect themselves.
And of course, there was no doubt that Han Hesh was working on this, and she was about to turn around. She said about Ellen DeGeneres and a couple of others who were up with Epstein. She actually said, "You're effed," on a live broadcast only a few days before she died. Come on. It just gets darker and darker. We've got a final thing for you before we go. Of course, you heard about the Elephant and Castle. This is Elephant and Car. Let's have a look. One of those. Maybe you didn't like the colour, Lembit. Quite incredible scenes there with an elephant having a bit of a go. Now we're just going to show you this before we leave you. Let's have a look at this.
Thanks for watching the show. Bye-bye.
Not everyone makes it to the end. Take care. Just because we watched Warren Thornton on Patreon.
There we are. Our thanks to Charlton and the rest of the cast. And of course to Lembit, who's given up much of his valuable time this evening. Lembit, where can people find you on social media?
At Lembit Opic and at Unprecedented TV. Hopefully Warren and I will be on at 0900 British Summertime, 0800 GMT in the morning. If Warren, you're willing to oblige me this evening.
Please go and give Lembit a follow. But for the time being, we've run out of time. So Lembit, it falls upon me to turn around and say it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.